sorry, try this one. Oh, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Welcome, nice to have a nice crowd here tonight. The first order of business is roll call. Mr. Moore.
Ms. Parker? Here. Ms. Kinzer? Here. Ms. Hopkins? Here. Mr. Fulbright? Here. Mr. Moore is present. Mr. Atkinson? Mr. Sims? Here. Mr. Beaver? Here. Mr. Howell? Here. Ms. Morency? Mr. Dudley? We have 8 present. We do have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. The next order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance and the moment of silence. Won't you stand and we will honor our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and be seated. The next order of business is to adopt the agenda.
Motion to adopt.
There's a motion by Mr. Moore to adopt, and a motion by is seconded by Mr. Howell. Is there any discussion? Then we're ready to vote. Okay, here we go. That motion does pass. The next order of business is recognition and announcements, and there are none, so we'll move on. Murray County Education Association, Inc.
Good evening, Chair Kinzer, Mr. Hickman, board members. We'd like to welcome, on behalf of MCA, Mr. Hickman as our new superintendent of schools, as well as Scott Gaines as our new assistant superintendent of schools. I just want to say, wow, having to hit the ground running and just coming into a situation that I can't envy. But what the teachers do appreciate and the employees do appreciate the input and being invited to all the meetings from principals. Lots of principals have reached out to teachers and community members at the bequest of Mr. Hickman that we are involved in these decisions. I sat in a meeting this morning that had a lot of discussion and then went on to my own school where there was still lots more discussion. This is a moving target. Nobody knows what's going to happen. So all we have to do, I think right now all we can do is take it as it comes and deal with it. But just welcome. There's not really a lot that's happened aside from COVID-19 to say, except just welcome, and we look forward to having lots of conversation. I've already had several other supervisors reach out to have involvement from the teachers in decisions, because it does impact teachers, and not just teachers, but kids, especially students. But teachers also have kids, and that is kind of a part of it that's a little bit wonky. So welcome, and I look forward to working with everybody again this year in a positive way. Thank you.
This is a smile if you can't see.
I have one, but it's like my mouth sucks everything, so I'll be eating it before I'm done speaking.
Okay, thank you. Public delegations. Just to remind you that by board policy, you should speak only to an item that is on the agenda. If you wish to speak to something else, the board would have to make a motion to approve and vote on it. So the first person is Dr. Kimberly Osborne, and if you'll tell us what you're going to speak to. You come forward and tell us your address and so on, and we allot 3 minutes for public comments.
Oh, good morning. Not morning, I'm sorry, it's afternoon. My address is 411 Lake Circle, Columbia, Tennessee.
Okay.
I wanted to, address the board on the issue of McDowell School.
Okay,
And I understand you can't answer questions, but I just wanted to put some stuff on record.
it's just not on the agenda, so if the board would
A
like-
motion to allow her to speak.
All right, is there a second?
Wait,
Although-
before I say that, actually, are there any other people that
No.
want to speak on?
No.
Okay, just her then, thank you.
Any other discussion? Can we just have a voice vote? All those in favor say aye. There you go.
Thank you so much. I want to congratulate you, Mr. Hickman, on your appointment, and Mr. Scott Gaines on his appointment as well. You see a group of us here, and we're here just representing, parents and children of McDowell School. Not that I have one myself, even though my grandchild goes there, to McDowell. So we're just here representing those who sometimes do not know how to come and speak for themselves and ask for the things that they desire for their children. So the things I want to put on record is we would like transparency on what is going to be done with McDowell, the school itself, and the displacement of the children that belong to that school. We are currently right now in College Hill School that was closed down. And we're looking at McDowell School that will probably be closed down because it is inhabitable for the children as far as the health of the kids who are going to that school, and we've known that for a long time. I was looking back at newspaper articles, and there was an article that had, where you guys, I'm not sure if it was you guys, I have to go back to the article, but someone is speaking to the parents at McDowell in the gym, and the newspaper quotes, there was this loud roar, and the school was supposed to be built by August 2020, which means next month, and that is obviously not happening. And so that's why we're asking for transparency. We don't want people to be led along where we're saying one thing, and we haven't secured the funds to do those things. We want to be honest with those parents, and we actually have been doing voter registration, walking through that area. A lot of those parents are Hispanic, which means they do not speak English, and so we want to make sure when you're making plans for McDowell that you have someone who speaks, who can translate for those parents, so they're not just signing up to do whatever you say, but they actually have input in the decisions that you're making on their children. And so a question that has come up is there a way to reopen College Hill School as a placement for those students while you decide what will happen to those students? Because we know that school starts in a couple of weeks, so the decision for McDowell has to be made immediately. And being that McDowell is a diverse school, it would be one of the ways to keep those students together is to reopen this as a public school. In my understanding, looking at the Northfield component, there were only like 51 students. So I think it would be easier to move those 51 students versus moving a whole school body or splitting that school body into multiple schools. So you have kids who have gone to school together who are now going to go to different schools and will probably not ever get back together if they're dispersed. So that's some of the concerns we have, but we were really asking for transparency with the parents and the community, and don't make an empty promise. If we can't secure funding, don't tell people that we're going to have this built and we're going to do these things and we're not going to do them, and making sure that we have a Hispanic liaison to make sure that those parents have input on what's happening to their children, because they bring a lot of money into every one of those schools. And so they should not just be led around and asked to just do what we want them to do. They should have ownership, input, and accountability. So those are the things that we're asking for, transparency for McDowell School. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Osborne. The only comment I'm going to make to you all is that board meetings are open. They are on YouTube. Everything we say and do, we have to have transparency, and I appreciate that if you don't feel there has been. We will be discussing McDowell in our work session. I don't know when there'll be any kind of vote on that. We discuss all of our schools as far as the physical needs of those schools all the time. If you want to listen to the work session, go back and listen to them. Now, I don't know about it being in Hispanic, but I think that's a really great idea, and I thank you for bringing that to us. All right, next order of business is consent items. So is there staff, oh, wait a minute, excuse me, I am wrong. I have one more speaker, and it's Scott Lindsay. Is on here. Okay. Are you gonna speak to something on the agenda, I'm sure. So come on.
Tenure.
But you know, you're staff, so you could staff report here.
Good evening, Board. Madam Chair, you wanting me to go ahead with the recommendations for?
Sign this up. You sign this. Scott Lindsay, you sign that up. Not you.
That was an error.
Okay, you make it.
Okay.
All right, now we're ready for consent items. Is there a motion to approve? Mr. Howell beat you to it. The motion's made. Mr. Moore seconded the motion. Is there any discussion? Then we're ready to vote. Please vote now. And that motion does pass. Under new business now, I think there was no finance attachment. In fact, Mr. Laconin spoke to me before he came, and I think most of the attached items on the FYI we've already looked at in the work session. So next is tenure. So, Mr. Lindsay.
Okay, Madam Chair, you have before you a list of people who have met all the requirements for tenure. I'm not sure what the process is of how you voted on tenure before.
You just present the names and
Yeah, I think,
we'll vote on it as a whole. They don't have to be presented individually.
okay. Could you put the names on the screen?
For the record, do you want to tell everyone just what requirements they have met to be tenured?
Yes, they have, for the last 5 years have been in good standing, and for the last 2 years have had superior ratings for the last 2 years of their tenure with Maury County Public Schools. So it's a very high honor, and in 2011, the state changed the tenure eligibility standards, which makes it a lot more rigorous to obtain tenure. So this is pretty special that these individuals were able to achieve tenure.
I can tell you it's one of the most important milestones we meet as teachers. It's one thing you strive for and work hard to get. So I appreciate the fact that this list is presented tonight. And so is there a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
Mr. Moore made the motion, seconded by Mr. Howell. Any discussion? Then we're ready to vote. Please vote now. And that motion does pass. Next, on the zoning and facilities is a easement request from, for Spring Hill High School. Who will speak to that? Mr. Perryman.
Good evening. We received this request from the city of Spring Hill the day after our work session. That's why it's coming under new business. They are installing a water pumping plant for the GM facility right at the corner of the Spring Hill High School property, and they're just asking for an easement to go off of our drive. It's about 80 feet total over to their property line to where they would go. And this is something we worked with them at Battle Creek and Marvin Wright and different places like that. I sent it to Mr. Wooliver. He saw only one thing that he needed to correct, but he said he could work with the city lawyer up there to get that corrected and make sure that it was our standard of work. So we're just bringing their request to you.
we need a motion to approve the motion. He has written the motion as he'd like for it to be, so do I hear,
Before there's a motion, Jake, are you saying that you would like to make some changes to this before we approve it?
Yeah, well, no, if there's an interest there, I can fix the form of the easement. The easement set up as if they were buying it from you, there's some waiver of damages there. I don't want that. If they mess up your property, they need to fix it. So, with that being said, I mean, the grant of easement is fine, we just need to fix the document, but if you approve it, I'll put it in proper form. Or if you want to bring it back to you, that's fine too.
I would prefer to have it, can we defer this to a later meeting when it's in a written form, we can review it? If you can clean it up as you feel comfortable with.
Yeah,
Will
I'll
do?
be glad to.
All right, thank you.
I just didn't want to go too far. If you had no interest in it, I didn't want to, I mean, but if the board's okay with it in theory, then I can, fix that up and get it back to you.
I think we have an interest in it, but we don't want to vote on something we hadn't seen. so
Understand.
that's-
I'd like to, could we get a copy for the next work session?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Thank y'all.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Perryman. Under policy, this is the policy reviewed at the work session, and, we asked that one, first of all, that the policy be waived, the 30-day, waive the policy for 30 days, and also, I think, if you look on page 23, that was taken out, what we asked, so, any discussion, let's have a motion, and then we can have discussion if you need to. Mr. Fulbright makes the motion. Is there a second? I'll second the motion. Any discussion?
Is the motion to approve this policy and waive the 30-day posting
Yes.
notice?
Yes. Here's a recommended motion. I think really all we're asking to do is to approve it and waive the 30-day,
Thank you.
posting. That's what I seconded. Any discussion? Then we're ready to vote. I thought it had it on here, but I guess it didn't. The motion is to approve policy 6.3 and waive the 30-day posting. 6.300. Which one? The updated one? Yeah, 6/22/20. It said, both of them say update. Huh? Yeah, why are they two different ones?
The update is the policy 6.300 with the verbiage of the suspension as a last resort taken out under the elementary and the secondary. That's what has been presented. If there's something else there that says update, it was just my request that we waive
You had a letter there.
Yes.
And also, it's the middle one that says policy update from Carl Lane, and then below is the policy itself. So we were just
Yes.
wondering what the middle one, same thing.
It may be the same thing, it should only be one attachment.
Okay.
The policy should be there once.
It was on page 23 of the policy that we asked them to take out, the suspension. It was on that. It says trauma-informed policy. All of that is one policy.
Yes.
Okay. Are we okay? Are we ready for the question? Okay, then we're ready to vote.
I thought it was the 622 one, because that was the one where it took all that information out about suspension.
It's the 622, the other's just a letter.
Right, and then the first one is 6-3 as well.
Yeah, but
So there's
the
three.
motion is for the one 622.
622.
Correct. I was just looking at what Ms. Shirley was typing and just making sure that we were
Okay,
clear
thanks.
that it's
Thanks.
the 622 one.
And that motion does pass. Okay, I've come to the end of the agenda here, which is kind of scary because this is such a short meeting, but, we are gonna have, a work session next Monday. Important meeting today at the central office that many of you, attended or were able to by Zoom. That meeting you will be posting, the plans for the district by Friday, so it'll be attached to the agenda so anyone can see what the proposal is, and we'll have a full discussion of that on Monday. Now, the problem with, it's not a problem, but we may have to do, a Zoom meeting for, some way, and we'll let everybody know if that's possible, since we've gone back to we've gone back to that ability to have Zoom meetings, even though I really don't, I really would rather have it where we can sit and discuss this and hear about it. But we'll let, that will be posted as that is the case as well. On the 20th, I'm gonna take this down because I can't hear myself talk. On the 20th, there'll be two meetings. One will be a call special. The purpose of that meeting will be to have public comment just on the plans for reopening the school and to vote on the plan. Then we will have a work session after that. The work session that also will have an agenda posted as well. In a work session, we have an open discussion, no voting, no motions, no anything, just an open discussion. Now, with that being said, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Before that, could I
Oh,
say something,
excuse me,
if
go
you don't
ahead.
mind? Thank you, Chair Kinzer. To those that are here for the McDowell issue, I appreciate you guys showing up. I know it's a little awkward when you're not sure when you can speak to a certain issue, but I do thank you. And I will say I appreciate the comments about this being open and open discussions with people, what's gonna happen. These are not easy decisions we're talking about. And I'm hearing you personally, that I wanna make sure that we as a board try to communicate very clearly what we have to do and what we decide to do, and try to communicate that with everybody. Making sure that those that aren't in the normal circles of getting communications, we make sure we reach everyone. So I appreciate you bringing that up, and we do need to make sure we do that. And again, these are not easy decisions. They're very difficult to do, and they're gonna impact a lot of people. But thank you very much for speaking on that, and we're gonna try, I know I'm gonna personally try, and I think everyone here is gonna try our best to make sure we are very transparent with what we're gonna have to do with this. So thank you.
Any other comments? We welcome you. You've hit the ground running, no problems in this district to deal with, so. But anyway, we're glad to have you and glad for all of you all to be here as well. So, is that a motion? Motion to adjourn, Mr. Howell, well, of course, we'll second it. So, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All right, have a great evening.